So let's welcome to the stage Kazeem Tewogbade. Looking at Mr. Kazeem's bio, he's one of the pioneers in the data industry, going as far back as the early 2000s, where community and a lot of us didn't have that experience. So I think my first question for Mr. Kazeem will be, some of your data-related works dates back to the early 2002. So what was the industry like then? When we didn't have a lot of community, we didn't have a lot of practitioners in Nigeria or in Africa largely. What was that experience like?
Thank you, Amaka. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I think you should find yourself lucky if you are here, because Data Fest is doing amazing work here. Can you give a round of applause to the organizers? If you look at the trend, it's been very deep, actually. In 2002, there was nothing like AI, definitely. Maybe there was Hadoop and all the big data stuff outside of the country, but there was nothing like that yet in Nigeria. And even if you have, in 2022, you have all those new big data infrastructures that are, doing very amazing work outside of the country, it's still going to be even within the research space, okay? Here, we are still using a solution called SAS. Some few people would have maybe learnt about it. It is called Statistical Analytical System. It was a precursor to Python and some other machine learning focused tools that we have now. SAS was a private business. They had strong researchers who have been building some of these machine learning programs or algorithms, and then they've been able to monetize that. It was in that platform that we saw different algorithms that are now being exposed and now made to be open source. All right, and I'm sure you must have heard of SPSS as well. Okay, they're in the same in the same space, but SAS was some inches ahead of SPSS. At the point, IBM bought over SPSS, and it's not really doing great. Although you still have some users that are still stuck with it, but I would say that back then the data and AI work was still very premature, and there are no clear business values that could get attached to those solutions, except for just basic reporting and and analytical work.
Awesome. I can remember the days of IBM, Cognos, and all those data stack that is not in use today. So you've done a lot of projects for several years with top telcos and top banks. Could you share a few experiences of how data, or a few examples of how data transformed that space, the sectors, and the impact they had, given the fact that was a pioneering space, telcos and big banks stand a lot to gain from using data and AI to transform their processes. Do you have any standout examples of those kind of jobs?
Okay, let me give two. At a point, I was working with MTN, and I was the lead for data. Then it was the competition between MTN and then Equinet was very fierce. So today, MTN will launch a product tomorrow. Equinet will react maybe by bringing down their prices, and then you have to also see what you can do to adjust that. I remember there was a situation where Equinet had to bring their costs so much down, and MTN was to react. When we looked at data, we felt that MTN shouldn't react because we saw that though Equinet was underselling, but it wasn't sustainable. I'm sure somebody in that company made an error, all right, and said, no, let's not react, let's not bring down our prices, let's see how this thing would pan out for maybe a week. And in some days, they readjusted, and then they brought up their price again. So, but everything was rooted in data analysis and looking at, if you do this, what are the costs and effects, basically. So that's one example, all right? And it saved MTN so much money, all right? And then we couldn't even, disintermediate, some of the, products that MTN was having. So it was a huge one. Second thing I can remember, one of the banks, I think the trend has changed now. I can say that we're one of the first people that it was asking the banks that, why do you have to wait till end of the month to get your MPR? MPR is like management performance report. So why do you have to wait till end of the month, all right, to be able to know your position? You can do this on a daily basis because we had faced increased volume from the telco sector, so we know the data engineering, tricks to play to ensure that we can crunch data much faster. So what was then the bank customers were quite small, so we could help you do this on a daily basis, and then we started the daily MPR kind of model with the banks. So it's so I can give those two examples, all right, more on the data analytics side and on the data engineering side.
Thank you very much. So one key takeaway from that is imagine having to wait for the end of the month to know your performance and to know how your business is trending. But now with data, you're able to see that on a daily basis and have that information to make decisions at your fingertips. Awesome. One more question is, as a trailblazer and as one of the pioneers in this industry, I'm sure you've had to train a lot of, young professionals. I'm sure some of the leaders that you see today were probably, people that learned under your tutelage. What would you say are the key competencies or skills that a data enthusiast needs to break into the industry and have a successful career?
Amaka, you are making me feel I'm an old man.
Trailblazer.
Okay, so when it comes to training, I'm quite passionate, all right, about it, because myself, I'm a product of training. I got recruited from school immediately after I finished my studies in UI, and it all went into start coding. And then, these are the things you need. These are the guys that will help you to, to train. So we were basically some interns, all right? So after, co-founding Bluechip, I decided that, yes, let me use the same approach. Let me get interns from schools and let me have a program. I used to call that program BITP, Business Intelligence Training Program. You see, there was no data and AI then. It was BI. Okay, so we had that program, and I think over 150 people would have gone through that that scheme, and many of them have become leaders in different places that they found themselves. So I'm happy for myself in that. But so what are the skills you need? I think I always say this. My top number one skill, although of course it's human skill, is reliability. All right. You must have your team members to say, that guy or that girl is reliable. It's the best form of accolade that you can get from your team members. Then, of course, you have to learn a lot of things within, within short time. You have to be, self-motivated. I always say that sometimes I'm not asking for you to come and I'm not asking that you should come and build a compiler. I'm not asking you to come and create a new Power BI solution. I'm just saying that write SQL, plot SQL, do this. I'm not asking you to come up with a new, predictive model algorithm. I'm not asking you to be a researcher. Just use this thing that people have done, and. So for me, I say it's actually, a leveler, and you need to just put in the hard work, get self-motivated, and get things done. All right. The more time you spend on learning, you see the value immediately. All right.
Awesome. So be reliable, have the right tech skills, like you mentioned, SQL, Power BI, so learn some tools, and also upskill, learn, and be on that continuous learning path. So those are key skills to have a successful and to build the right competencies. And I'm sure the sky will be your limit. Thanks so much for sharing, sir. A round of applause for that. Thank you so much. So one more question that comes to mind is, I'm sure your company has navigated some challenges. So you were the co-founder of Bluechip Technologies in the early 2000s. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make you look old, but that's just the fact. Yes, the fact. I remember working with your company back when I started in UBA in 2015. So that was my first interaction with Kazeem. So your company must have navigated some challenges, expanding AI and data solutions, beyond Nigeria. I know Bluechip is in other African countries now. What opportunities do you see for regional collaboration, especially when you're expanding beyond Nigeria?
Well, yes, there are a number of opportunities. We are in 8 African countries, and of course, that includes Nigeria. There are a number of things which we are also doing in my organization to tap into strengths in different places. We are beginning to have competency centers. All right. We're very big in Kenya, and we seem to find certain skill sets prevalent in Kenya. And then we've made Kenya to be the center of excellence. All right, this is our competency center when it comes to that, area of our business. And then you can see now, you can see collaboration. If I get any job, requiring that in Nigeria or in Ghana or in DRC or in Ethiopia, it falls back, to the chaps or to the ladies in Kenya. So that's how we, trying to ensure that yes, we in each region or in each market that we find ourselves, we're able to map, the strengths, map to the strength of those regions. And it doesn't even have to be in technical skills. It can also be in maybe commercial cooperation, all right? Because at the end of the day, it's business, and there are a lot of elements, that are going into that. So we are seeing Africa as one, and being able to create synergies across all the different markets and pull everything together into one.
Awesome. So you mentioned Kenya being the center of excellence. Are there like specific skill sets that we Nigerians are lacking that we could actually learn from them? Or what would you say is our strength? What is their strength? Or in these other African countries that you've seen that we could actually borrow, or what they could also do better in terms of collaboration?
Okay. When it comes to cybersecurity, stuff, right? I am talking about not just in terms of data and AI. I'm talking about even the digitization, the automation side, all right, the technology itself, the number of good resources, all right, that you find. I'm not saying they are not in Nigeria, by the way, but I'm saying that we've seen that preponderance of that skill sets emerging from that from that side. Maybe I'm not looking well in the country. but it's a trend that we've seen over time. So I know that cybersecurity is still emerging, and there are a lot of things we can do about it as data and AI practitioners. There are a lot of new use cases that are requiring that, yes, we need to do a lot of things within that space. When you talk about fraud detection, all right, talk about maybe even predicting certain unfavorable outcomes, risk management model and things like that, as it affects cybersecurity. There are a lot of use cases. There are tons of use cases that you can actually, that we can apply, as data and AI practitioners.
So, so taking it back to Nigeria, what would you say were some of the key factors, right, that made Nigeria become like a hub for data and AI and even talent? I think this community is even a testament to that growth. Right?
Yeah.
So what do you think are one of the key factors that made Nigeria become a hub for data and AI talent? And even looking forward, how do we continue this momentum?
Well, we've been fortunate in the country to have some leaders within this space. Starting from what was done at CCO, all right, having a very strong investor community, because all these things create the momentum. And then the data and AI communities are beginning to, piggyback on that and use that to leapfrog. Data first, it's massive, and I'm quite impressed with the turnout. These are some of the things that we are. I can say yes that we are very lucky to have. Having impassioned people who see data and AI as a stepping stone to economic development, and seeing how individual citizens can benefit and become global citizens, global IT practitioners, basically. So that's has seen some positive push into creating this ecosystem of people, resources, orbs, and everything. Well, data science has also been doing a lot of work. I've supported them in the past. I'm still supporting them. So then in bits and pieces, I can see some effort also from government. But there's still a lot of things to be done on their side, especially on the demand generation. I'm sure we're still going to get back to that. Our schools are beginning to modify to their curriculum. All right, I remember many years ago when I went to my alma mater and I was giving a talk on careers. I think there was no data and AI professional, among them. They were just like, I want to be, that time, I wanted to be a business analyst, I wanted to be a DBA, but recently, I've gone, yes, and I can see people saying, yes, I want to become a machine learning engineer, I want to be this, I want to be that. Oh, that's fine. I think the advocacy, is paying off. And I can tell you, the world needs a lot of us, all right? If you have 10 times the size of people here, it's not enough, all right? And so it's even going to get much bigger and bigger, in the few years, to come. So if you're in that space, please, increase your skill levels, all right? Connect with people, participate in communities, all right? Just get yourself into that ecosystem, it's a lot. It's going to be very, 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 very rewarding.
A round of applause for that feedback. What a time to be alive and what a time to be here. I remember when I started as a BI developer, you told people, what are you doing BI? They'll be like, what is that? Nobody even understood what BI or business intelligence was. But now, with community and with a lot of awareness, we are here today. The final question I have for Mr. Kazeem, talking about future trends and talking about the Nigerian landscape, what role can the government and at least our regulators play to foster the growth that we've seen and not to be a hindrance to AI and innovation?
Okay, I'll take the question in two parts. Maybe one on the side of regulator, and then maybe on the larger, government side. I'm not a fan of regulation, okay? But I know that there has to be some guardrails, okay, that we must, abide with. So in that sense, I'm still talking about regulation. A lot of things that would, a lot of challenging things that we don't even know that AI would turn up. Need governments to, or need regulators to try and, create laws, around. When AI really, gets into the swing. I'm not sure it's already in its swing right now. I know there's still some other infrastructural, issues. But when all those things are solved, you have good computing power. You have power itself, as in, to run your stuff. It's going to be very massive. LLM is there. I hope we'll be able to, at speed of thought, be able to, manage the changes and the disruptions that will cause. But we still need, as a people, as an organized people, to create laws, to create rules of engagement, and how to deal with some of these things when they come. But we should not over-regulate. We should not stifle innovation. We should not make life become unbearable, for the practitioners to effectively, create, the economic value, that our country needs. Okay, so that's one on the regulator side. However, on the government side, I see a number of things that the government is doing. All right, thumbs up. But I will say that I'll be more impressed if they are making deliberate efforts to stimulate demand. All right, because I've been looking at faces here. I cannot see any face that does not like money. So basically, when governments stimulate the economic, activity that can create economic benefits for individuals, you see how people will be so fired up, all right, to get things done. Okay, let me give a very small example, because all the other governments that you are seeing, they've done something like that in their country. Let's still talk about NIMC alone, all right? The value that is in that is really latent in there. It's quite enormous. NIMC, if you look at all the entire value chain, if you look at all the technologies that are required, all right. Let me just give you a small example, just one example. The capture, all right. All right. You have if you want to go to register, you stand in front of something, a camera. That's an SDK. all right? That would take your picture, and then sometimes you license per each device, all right? All the, if you're doing, all the telcos doing SIM registration, all right? They also license per device. Some of them have 1 million devices. You could imagine how many devices NIMC, is having to capture, biometrics, or capture, biometrics basically. Now, what is wrong if government says that I want to use a Nigerian SDK to do this? If I'm paying maybe like $1 or $3 per SDK, and I have 1 million devices, that's $3 million. So, government needs to challenge us, not just by creating ops, not just by doing advocacy. They must challenge us by creating, by stimulating demands. I say, this is what I need. Yeah, citizens, go at it. Many organizations that you are seeing that have now become very huge now, that was how they started. So that's where I would say that government must begin to look at. That's just one example, all right? If they do that, you can see how many companies that will be so strong in biometric engineering will stand up, all right, and begin to create economic value for the country. And then they can even export, their skill sets, their products and services outside of the shores of Nigeria to other places. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The government needs to challenge us. The government needs to stimulate demand and create that demand. Amazing stuff. A round of applause for this amazing session.